We are Witches Who Podcast. Hey, Dee.
Hey, Shelby.
What's the weird story you've got for me today?
Actually, this is this. It happened last night. So I was thinking about like what weird story do I have for all of you today? And after I left your house because I live here now.
Clearly, my dog loves you more than me.
Yes, he does. I left my house and I was listening to a webinar that I had signed up for. And I got, I'm 10 minutes away from you, got home and I stayed in my car, my second office in the driveway. And it was already beginning to get a little dark, and which it's fine. And I stayed there for a solid another like hour and 15 minutes. But before the webinar was over, I noticed like these shadows, like it was in between the, being really dark and like the dusk. So I noticed these shadows like in the front, and I was like, okay, I was wearing my glasses too. So I was like, is this like a reflection of the glasses with some light coming in? So I was like, I'm going to do a little experiment.
Ooh.
And so
This was last night?
this is last night,
Okay.
like when I got home. So I can't even remember what time it was, but it was like 5 o'clock or something. And it's getting so dark early. So I'm like, okay, I took off my glasses, and then I was like, oh, the little was, because they're not even like shadows. It was literally spirit, what I was seeing. I was a ghost, if you want to call it. And I was like, oh man, I was like, okay, I don't see them. It was the glasses, and went back to the webinar. And then I'm like, no, there they are. There they are.
And you had the glasses off at this
I
point?
had the glasses off. And it almost looked as if you're inside your car, which probably is going to sound like all the horror movies out there, right? Like you're in your car freaked out.
It's all dark.
And, these aliens or monsters are going around your car. Like, how do I get in? It was kind of like that, but not in a creepy. No.
Because that would work.
No, I was ready to open the door and be like, hey, I'm trying to be on this webinar.
Like rude.
It's not being recorded. I need to pay attention, and you guys already use enough of my time. So I was like, okay, let's do, a little bit more of, now I want to play, basically. So I was like, okay, I see it. I'm like, okay, what does it mean? And it was almost,
what does it mean?
What does it mean? Almost like shadowy, but not, because they were not shadows. They were like gray shadows, if you want to call them. They looked like misty.
Oh.
And it was also starting to get like misty. And then my husband was coming in and out and, from the house into the garage. We have like this detached garage. So he's like coming, he's like just looking at me like, hey, Ladybird, what are you doing in there? And, but he knew I was like on the phone or on a webinar or something like that. Everybody knows that's my second office, being in the car,
hanging out
in
in
the
the car,
driveway.
in the driveway.
Yes. So I just kind of like look at these shadows. But this is where I was like, okay, I make peace with my shadows. I really, instead of locking the door, I was like almost wanting to open the door and be like, hey, what's up? Like something to tell me? Just tell me. Tell me to my face.
What is this message you have for me?
Yes, because I'm not listening right now. It's so hard to get messages. So I was like, okay, I'm like, whatever. They're there. They're looking in. That's fine. But then I look through my rearview mirror and I see them in the back, not in the back of my car, but like in the back. And I was like, oh, it startled me for a second. But there was not the mist to say like, okay, it's going to start to rain, which did rain last night.
Yeah.
And all that. It was not even possible to have it like that. It was like this, it had almost like a form, but not quite a form. It was like these little gray clouds. And it was like two of them, kind of like, oh, what's up with this girl? They're probably trying to get my attention and be like, Dee, pay attention. And
yeah, like, lady.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So.
Oh my gosh.
But it was.
And you didn't like get like nervous or anything?
No.
Oh, it's because I knocked on the table.
know.
Sorry.
So Tucker. I know, buddy. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, I'm
I
so
know.
sorry. I disrupted you from your nap.
Yes. How dare you? So
anyways,
no, but I wasn't. It felt like benevolent. It didn't feel evil or mad. You see, you've woken him up.
What have I done?
You've woken up.
I woke the
Pumpkin.
beast.
You woke the beast.
I startled him awake from his nap, and
It's the best.
you never know. And then I knocked on the table. That was just not okay. You just see his ears in the video. Oh my gosh. Anyways, but yeah, how do you have that like discernment between like good and scary?
Well, for me, it's interesting because I know what we're gonna dive into today, so I'll leave that for the episode. But my entire land, we're over an acre, is all sealed in. I want to say it's not. What's it? It's like a gridded.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah. Like
so
a grid.
it's so there's plenty of copper in it.
Oh, got
and
it.
It's very, so I know who is usually around, and I have these cosmic being. I'm in a very cosmic land there. There's a lot of energy, and I know there's people like on patrol. I've seen them in like what it looks like bicycles running around.
Interesting.
So it was the same. A lot of the times I feel almost like if they switch to like get new people on patrol, and they're like, oh,
it's like turnover here.
Yeah, but like it's like, oh, she's the one that lives in this house or something, or that's the chick you have to watch out for, or something like that. She sees us, and like, don't freak out. I've rarely had negative experiences, and I know if I suddenly feel like a negative experience coming into my, like, I've never felt it necessarily inside the house, but into the land, it's just like, okay, I need to fortify.
Got it.
And then, doing your rituals as like cleansing and intention. Everything is just intention. So,
yeah.
yes. So, yeah, that's what happened. It was really interesting.
That is super interesting. And it's like the perfect thing to have happened right before we're going to record this episode too. So,
I know.
Even better. So, first things first, I'm Shelby.
And I am Dee.
And we are a Witches Who podcast. And what we are talking about today is perfectly in line with Dee's story because we're diving into spirit guides.
Yes.
What the heck are they? Yeah. Why do we hype them up so hardcore? And why don't we listen to them like ever?
I know. And I know you had also like how to trust the channel, or psychics.
Yeah.
Would love to share on that as well when we dive in. But so what do you want to dive in first?
Well, I think we should explain like what is a spirit guide. And I think that there's just it can be so convoluted. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, how do you have spirit guides if you believe in God? I'm like, well, God talks about angels, and I mean, I argue Jesus is a spirit guide. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So a spirit guide is not for me. And this again, this is just, you use your own discernment. This is just our thoughts and what we think about. But my spirit guides can be, Tucker can be my spirit guide.
For sure. He's my soulmate.
Yeah. It's like angels can be your spirit guides. You can have very specific spirit guides. Yeah. So I always talk about, we all have a set of guides that we come, and it's just that somebody, not a being, an energy that it guides you in certain direction. You have free will. All humans have free will. So it doesn't dictate every movement of our lives, but it absolutely allows us to, we were being nudged in the direction that we want, or being halted instead of taking a step forward. So with spirit guides, for me, they're just these beings that they can be angelic or earthly, of the earth, of Mother Nature. Everything has spirit.
Yeah, exactly. So, everything has, like we were talking about a couple episodes ago, or I don't remember when that was, about frequency, right? Everything has a vibration and a frequency, and that is a way, it's a conduit, right? Yes. For spirit to come through and communicate with you. It's just like when you're in church and you have the Holy Spirit, running through you. I mean, I remember being in church one time and it was always during music. It was always music was always like that big energetic, which again, frequency. And then feeling all of those tingles in my body and being like, oh my gosh, this is that Holy Spirit that everybody's talking about. Like I feel this, and you just feel this immense connection to something so much bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think like spirit guides can show up in multiple different forms, multiple different like, you know, beings or energies, or sometimes it's literally just a light. I don't know. But it's all to guide you, right? It's all to like offer you just some comfort.
Yep.
I think.
Like a lot of people say, it's my higher self.
Yeah.
You know, my higher self, my omnipresence, or some people will think it's like, yeah, well, I just talk to God, right? And that is how they receive their messages, or
which is great.
And angels, or it just is not going to look the same for everyone. And we can have multiple spirit guides. So
like we may somebody may connect super hardcore to angels, whereas like I've never felt a super hard call to that. You know, so it's like it just depends on who you are, and that all comes from like getting to know yourself and just being open to the concept, I think. Right. So there's like so many different types of spirit guides. Angels, I mean, ancestors, people that have like loved ones in your life that have passed on, right?
Yes.
Can come back to you as spirits and become spirit guides. Animals, you know,
they can be in the form of teachers, elementals, spirit guides, ancestors, like you said, loved ones, teachers, gatekeepers, record keepers, spirit guides, spirits of nature, like all of them can be goddesses, spirit animals. So it just depends on what do you believe in, what resonates the most. And you may be like nothing, but and which is fine. It's like I can assure you have a spirit guide.
Whether you choose to recognize them or not. Like
you, if you have a soul, if you're breathing right now and you have a soul, you also come with a set of guides and guidelines at the same time.
Yeah, totally. And it's like that. Anybody that says like, oh, I don't have that, that's not real or whatever. Have you ever had a gut feeling about something? I can't imagine there's anybody on this planet that has never had a gut feeling. Right? Where it's like something told me not to do that, or something told me to do that and I did it and this is what happened. You know what I mean? Like that's those are your spirit guides. Like using your body as a conduit, be like, hey, I'm going to make you feel this sensation because this is to shove you in this direction, or I'm going to make this happen so that it steers you in this direction or whatever. Which you can take that as God's blessings or your prayers or whatever, right? Like it can be interpreted in any way you want.
Absolutely. Right. We always say when you pray, you're talking to God, and when you meditate, God is talking to you. It's just like, even if somebody's like, I don't believe in anything. And I've had clients that are like very science-based, but energy-oriented. So it's like, oh, you know, I was really wishing for. I'm like, and then your wish came through, right? Or I was really hoping. And it just, all that is part of the same, falls under the same umbrella of what we called spirit guides. Somebody may call it something else.
Yeah. And there's also the concept that God uses spirit guides, right? Like everything is of God, everything is of source. We are all of the same energy. So why wouldn't God have little soldiers, you know what I mean? Like little helpers, like Santa's elves, you know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
Why not? Why not? And then if you have resistance to this word, then that's fine. Or maybe ask why. Where is this coming from?
Or just take what you want from it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to say all that. Yeah. Back to the buzzwords. We should have put spirit guide as a buzzword.
We should have. We really should have.
But So I think that's a spirit guide, right? Somebody that's guiding you. But why are they important? Why do we connect to them? Why do we want to communicate to them?
A lot of times I feel it's for extra clarity, but it's most of the time to validate what we're already feeling.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, like if you're praying to a saint, right? You're praying to a saint, which is spirit guide. And you're like, okay, please, if you just like can do this for me, like my life will be so much easier. Or a lot of people ask for clarity and just ask your spirit guides for a little clarity. And then you wake up, let's say you did it at night as a prayer, you wake up with a new insight.
Yeah.
And then we need to follow that insight. And that's when it trips. That's the tough part.
That's the part. Yeah, and it's also trusting that part too. It's like, okay, yeah, like, how to connect to them. So ask,
Ask, literally ask.
straight
They're
up ask.
everywhere. So I'll explain a little bit more on spirit guide, just because this is something that I do where with some of my clients, where I channel who is in their energetic field. So I always tell them you have tons of different spirit guides, but they're not all going to come through in this moment for you the same way. It's like if your car breaks down, you're not going to call the plumber to come and fix your car. You're going to call a mechanic. And so depending on what's going on in your life specifically, those are the guides that are going to come through when we're able to do those channeling sessions. So we have spirit guides that will bring us clarity. We'll have spirit guides. It's just all about extra guidance, because they don't want to take that away from you in any way, even though humans can become very dependent on spirit guides or other things. Like the pendulum is a way of communicating with your spirit guides. And then people become very dependent on it. It's like, oh, every day they want to communicate with their spirit guides, which is great at the beginning, just to strengthen your intuition and know when it's a spirit guide and when you're just making stuff up in your head. But if you're asking the pendulum, you're connecting with your spirit guides, you're asking the pendulum a question and the pendulum's going no, and you try to ask the same question in a different way, trying to get a different answer, then it's like, come on, we need to take a step back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's really funny. But yeah, and I think there's also, like, with the pendulum too, like, there's so many other ways you can connect to, like, even just straight up meditation. Like, just take a seat, close your eyes, connect to your breath, and just ask. Like, one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling like kind of disconnected or just need like a reset is go out in nature, because a lot of my guides are very like elemental based. Like, I feel really connected to like animals and nature, and just being outside in general. I think you can connect deeper because you're more connected to the earth, because you have to ground yourself here on this planet to be able to access those higher realms, right? But one of my favorite things to do is to take a blindfold or a scarf and tie it around your eyes and just go sit out in nature and trust. Like, the craziest thing is you will feel a presence. It's like when you think somebody walked by and you like turn, oh, okay, like nobody's there, and you just go back to what you're doing. But if you're forced to kind of sit with it and feel people approach you, or beings or energies approach you, it's so hard not to take it off and be like, oh, who's coming? Somebody's coming up here. Kind of thing. But just trust that is an energy, a guide, or you know, like, give yourself some discernment of like, you asked for this, like, this is real.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is to meditate with like a eye mask on, just blindfolded and really feeling. And when people ask, also like how to connect first with your spirit, it's like, go into meditation. And I love the blindfold, and, go into meditation, just ask, connect with your breath, and then just ask, okay, spirit guides, I'm ready for you to come through, and you will begin to notice the sensations around you. Like, they do come through. And I talk to my clients, and our, like, actually friends from our networking, our sisterhoods, that groups that we have. I would say, you can always ask a spirit guide, hey, spirit, because you want like a good spirit to come through, because not all of them are great. There's a lot of not good energy out there. They are evil spirits, and there's also confused energy. So you want to make sure you're drawing in those that are of your highest good and in your best interest. So it's like, okay, how do I know for sure that this is who is coming through, or of my best interest? And asking them, do you serve God? Do you serve light? Which are great questions. But they could lie about that. But they can never lie about love. So you can ask, hey, do you serve light? Yes. And you feel like the sensation of like, yes. Do you serve God? Yes. But as soon as you ask, do you serve love? Either you'll continue to feel them, or suddenly it feels empty. And it's like a really crazy, crazy feeling. But that's the way you know who you're bringing to. That's why the Ouija board is a no for me.
I've
all
also
no.
like had experience too where it's like you ask all those questions like, do you serve love? And there's like they don't give you a straight answer, right? Where it's like I'm feeling like kind of like wishy-washy and I'm like, oh,
come back when you have a stronger answer.
yeah, it's like yes or no, dude.
Yeah,
like give me, and then it must be no because you were not giving me a straight answer. Otherwise, you would have been like, you know, I would have
felt it strongly,
right?
And something important that I always say is like it's good to know what clair you have open. You know, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, cognizant, or sentient, because that's how you know you're receiving the messages as how it's coming. Like you have a little bit of a better idea if you're like, okay, I know I'm somebody who, when I receive messages from spirit or I have the gut feeling, it comes in through a knowing or a feeling, or I hear it or I actually see it.
Yeah.
And when you know what clair you have most open, that when you go into meditation and that stillness and that presence, you'll be able to discern, like know exactly that's my spirit guide coming through as.
Yeah. I get a lot of people asking me like, well, how do you figure that out? I have like a really cool, like quick meditation, like to go through to like help. That's what I do for my clients. Cause it's a lot easier for me to like tailor like specific hypnotherapy sessions for people if I know their clairs, because then I can, if somebody can't visualize, I'm not going to be like, visualize this and see this.
Absolutely.
Then it's just like a waste of my time or their time really. So like, how do you know like what your strongest clair is? And honestly, it's just, there's like a cool guided meditation you can do. There's lots of stuff you can find on the internet, but you can also just sit and like kind of take yourself through it a little bit where, okay, I'm going to imagine a rose. What was the first thing that you noticed about the rose? Did you see it? Did you feel it? Like the petals on your skin? Did you smell it? Right? Like what was the first thought that associated with the rose? And like, that's usually your strongest clair. And for me, like I have always had a really hard time with understanding what my strongest clair was, because I feel like I can do all of them pretty easily. Like I can like rotate through them. I'm like, okay, I see it, I smell it, I feel it, like I taste it, like all of it. And so, and I don't know what that's about, but that was always a struggle for me.
So we all have all of our clairs. I'm saying like some are more active than others, but we all have the ability to really strengthen all of our clairs and have them active. Like I don't know if I want to say my weakest clair, but clairaudience is like one that is not my strongest yet. But we all have the ability of like, to strengthen these clairs. But it's important if you want to learn, which clair is, just like go in and notice how you receive messages, how your gut feelings come through. And that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we all have these messages. We all get these messages. But what do we do with them once we've got them? Right?
I know.
Or how do you even know what they are? Like, okay, I have all these feelings. How do you decipher the message?
I know. It just reminds me of all these memes that you see like on the medias, right? And it's just like your guides being very clear on you. And you're like, what on earth? Or I saw one where it's like the message couldn't be clearer. And the picture was like an alien, a pyramid, like a hummingbird, a dice, a cup, and all these things. Like, how can you not get this? I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yes.
What?
I know. But at the time is that I think as humans, due to the soul contract that we made, we get really stuck in our heads, so we all came here with the core plan of forgetting everything and doing the work in order to make a little bit, this life, make it a little better, in a way
to learn and to,
talking about the earth school as you were saying.
I love earth school. Yeah. Move into a higher density when you head back into source or whatever. And that's where your guides really come in, is to help you learn, right?
Yeah. Yes. So you can lean on them. But then if you have resistance with the spirit guide, then you're probably just going to struggle even a little bit more. Not necessarily like, like, oh, I can't hear, or I don't believe in spirit guides. So does that mean I'm going to struggle? Not at all. Make sure you're following your gut feeling, just make sure you're really saying yes to yourself.
Yeah.
But why?
How?
What do you mean?
How do you say yes to yourself? I think that's like one of the hardest parts is like, okay, cool. We get these messages and we have these gut feelings. Okay. But do you ever act on them?
Yeah. The thing
Right?
is
Like-
so it's like, leave the relationship, leave the job.
Yeah.
Or say yes to the relationship, say yes to the job, or say yes to something, or say no to something. Because,
But I have all of these excuses as to why I can't do those things.
no,
Or-
then that's just
right?
you as a human getting in the way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, and that's where the work comes in, essentially, of like, we talk about shadow work and we talk about like limiting beliefs and all this stuff. Well, a lot of it is just removing energy that's in the way of our intuition, removing energy that's in the way of having a better relationship with ourselves and having a better relationship with our guides, so that we can receive downloads and messages that will allow us. Like, I think it's like Albert Villoldo that says, like, once you decide to take the path of the shaman, you have to say yes. And it's all about yes to spirit, yes to this. And the second you say no, or you're reserved, then
we doubt so much because we have so much resistance, because we cannot see how it's going to unfold.
Yeah.
And we've been so programmed that you have to see it through. You have to work on the how this is going to happen. The how is what keeps everyone prisoner.
Yeah.
How that's going to happen.
Yeah.
When your passion or your dedication or whatever is that you are wanting is so strong, your flame is like just like burning so
your
bright.
why is really high. Like,
Yes.
like what is driving you and why you want to do
Yes.
it. But you're too stuck on how that you can't even see the outcome.
So this is where we trust that. Sorry, I'm messing with my
Oh, you
my
hear
microphone.
these little like
Sorry, guys. It just like it feels like it swivels. Hopefully, I'm not swivels. But see, now I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? What is this episode about?
talking about how everybody gets so caught up in the how to, and being very like, even if you know wholeheartedly like, this is what you want to do, this is why I do it, but how?
Because it's easier to live in your limitations,
Yeah.
to play the victim, to be like, I'm not good enough. But how come everybody else out there is doing it? What is the difference between you and somebody else? Like, we've all seen probably, on the medias again, it's like, you have the same 24 hours that Oprah has, right? She's like, it's like, yes, but Oprah has this and has that and has that. It doesn't stop you from still having the same 24 hours. However, yes, she can put in, 20 grand towards a business or towards just giving it out to a foundation or whatever that is. But can you, instead of sitting in front of the TV, can you decide to spend the hour you're going to, spend watching TV, spend it in front of your computer working on something, or sitting with a journal and just writing.
Yeah.
And those are ways to connect to your spirit guides, when you just sit, like, grab a journal and you just start writing, right? Like, stream of consciousness is what I think Abraham Hicks mentions it, but just morning pages, there's different names to it, but it's just literally your subconscious coming through, which is another form of your spirit guide speaking. But as humans, we get so stuck in just like, what is, and I've had clients, so I don't think in an episode in the future we'll talk what exactly Shelby and I do, because I don't think we talk about it. But yes, I channel and but I help people free their mind of unnecessary clutter, which is just looking at things with different perspectives. So I do have clients sometimes they're like, but Dee, I have no job. I have no money. I just lost my job. I have no more extra money and my car broke down. Like, those are facts in their life. I'm like, I get it. Like, those are facts. Those are things that are happening. But with those things happening, it's just like, let's get pissed. Let's, feel it, get through it, like, work with it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, how long are you going to be under that energy?
Don't let it consume you.
Don't let it
Yeah.
consider, and don't start talking to other people about how bad that is, right? It's like, then because then you're like, oh, well, somebody come, family member, well, I lost my job. And then that person is like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for so-and-so.
Yeah.
And then
You're
people
building all the wrong kind of energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all that matters. Our words matter. And it's like, yeah, well, I want to tell somebody for support. Yes, but know who's the support system.
Yeah.
Are you just is it going to become just gossip and you're just going to talk about how awful your life is, and then you're just going to go into self-pity, or be like, yeah, this is really crummy, like I'm really feeling it, talking to somebody for them support, and this person who's going to support you is going to be like, that sucks, that really sucks, but I've seen you come out of worse things. And actually I have a somebody that may have a job that may interest you, or maybe you want to change careers, or you've been wanting to change careers, but because you've been stuck in this job for so long, you haven't been able to look at the other side. And sometimes it's like, well, I've been scared to leave the money that job was providing. Totally. And once you say yes to yourself and you leave it, you're like, oh my gosh, I like double my income doing what I love.
Yeah.
And that does happen.
All along, your spirit guides over here being like, hey, idiot. Yes. Remember all these things I've been showing you? All these little things, all these annoyances, like that one coworker that you can't stand. I put her there so that you would be more apt to quit. You know what I mean? Like all those little signs that
speak up if that was your thing, maybe.
Or exactly.
Man.
Yeah, it's all those little things every single day that we ignore that probably could have saved us so much heartache, so much energy, and just pain and grief if we would just choose to listen. But we have to trust, right? Yeah. Like I had somebody ask me the other day, like, do you trust God? Oh. And I'm like, whoa, what a question. Like what an easy question. But at the same time, I'm like, well, of course. Well, do you though? Because if you truly, honestly trust God, or trust your guides, or trust yourself, then, and you wholeheartedly, then why are you sitting in this place of doubt?
Yeah, you wouldn't be in the situation.
You wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. You wouldn't be worried. You wouldn't have anxiety. You wouldn't, and it's natural. Like it's hard to just say, yes, 100% I trust God all the time. Oh, absolutely. Especially when things happen and you're just like grief, for example. How do you trust God wholeheartedly and trust your guys that this is what's supposed to happen? If one more person tells me everything happens for a reason one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah. Like, cool, I get it. But how do you trust God wholeheartedly when he took away your loved one, or, or whatever it is? So I think that
I'm always like, show me the reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, everything happens for a reason. Okay, show me the
what
reason.
What is it? Yeah.
But that's part of not trusting.
Yeah. And I think like the human condition too is we allow so much emotion into it that clouds our judgment a lot of the time. And that's so hard, especially because the harder you love, the harder you grieve, right? So being able to trust your spirit guides, it's almost like you just want to, it's like a whole other family over there to be, and you just want to scream, shut the hell up. Yeah. I don't have capacity to listen to you right now at all because I'm over here hurting. When in reality, like if you could just breathe through it, take a minute and be like, okay, I trust you. Like I'm hurting, I'm grieving. This sucks. I hate everything about my life, or whatever it is, whatever the situation is, help me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, I think a lot of what it comes down to is nobody wants to ask for help. And because we've been taught and conditioned for so long that we shouldn't have to, that, the atomic family, that, we should go through life as an individual family unit. You're your own person. And then, breaking into, like we were talking about earlier, that strong, independent woman, or everybody's out for themselves because for the government to have control, or for lack of a better, analogy, like to be separate is, to put a wedge in between the community to keep us separate, that's control. That's,
absolutely.
Right. And that is separate, not even just from each other, but from God, from our guides, from
your own intuition, your own inner guidance system, which is that intuition, that trust. That's where you can develop, connecting with your spirit guides. Yeah. But it's a lot easier to live in doubt and let yourself be led by something you see.
Yes, exactly. It's like that tangible evidence, like, oh, they're not real because I don't physically see them standing in front of me right here. Oh, that didn't actually happen. I'm imagining it. I'm crazy. I'm whatever. And then it's also like you go tell your friend about it, or your mom about it or something, and they're like, okay, like you're a lunatic. Maybe you should go to, you need help. You should go to a psychiatrist. What? No.
Yeah. But a lot of the times when we are listening, like going back, it's like, why don't we listen to your spirit guides? Like you get the inklings, you get the signs, and then you have the resistance, right? Or how can I listen to this when all this facts, quote unquote, are happening, but you're not noticing that you're missing all the very obvious signs that they're literally putting in front of you.
Yeah.
So let's say, yes, we talk about the repetition of numbers, right? The 222, 333, things like that. And it says every time you see that, it's just take it as a sign of like, hey, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to know exactly what 444 means or 888. It's just a sequence.
Yeah.
And just trusting yourself like, hey, I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
Like
all of those synchronicities too.
Yes.
Like recently I've been seeing hawks everywhere.
Oh.
Like everywhere. Like on the way home the other day, I saw one today on the way home. And then my friend Michaela sent me a voice message. She's like, oh my gosh, there's a huge hawk right here. I'm like, what is this hawk situation? Like clearly the hawk has a message for me. Like, so all those little synchronicities, those are your guides speaking to you. And it's your, pick up the phone, right? It's your job to decipher what that means and to feel into what it means. And I love all those little signs. Like, it's interesting too. Like once you pay attention to them, they're everywhere.
Yes,
They're everywhere.
Every time, if I'm feeling doubt or something, I'm like, man, you can ask always for a sign as well. But I know when I see a yellow butterfly, that's always like you're on the healer's path. You're on the path, like in the right path. And it just gives me like a boost of energy of like, okay, this is not as crummy as I thought it was.
Yeah.
This is good. So we can always ask for a sign, and you can get very clear in your signs. But also
at 427, I need to see a yellow, a yellow sticky note on my car window, or I am not going to do the thing I said I was going to do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you can get specific, but also it's like your friend, right? Like if you were like, okay, God, tell me today, or universe or guides or higher self, tell me today, show me a sign by showing me a hawk today that I'm on the right path, just so I can keep going.
Yeah.
And you don't see it anywhere, but then your friend sends you a voicemail. It's just like, oh my gosh, I just saw the hawk.
Yeah.
That's your hawk.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
A lot of people are like, well, I did not see it.
Yeah.
Or you saw a sticker in the back of a car, and somebody had it printed on their shirt.
Or you just didn't see it. It was there and you didn't see it.
You missed it.
You missed it
with all your doubt
because you were so you were so clouded by doubt, or so hyper focused on something else. Like you pull yourself back, like get rid of the clouds and look at your life from a bird's eye view, and like stop having such a like narrow mindset and take a freaking breath of fresh air, and maybe you'll start to see things a little differently. Like we also like, I feel like we can go so far on the other end too, like you're just saying, of like, if I don't get this specific sign, then forget it. But like you're missing opportunities now, or you're not, experiencing life because you're waiting for a sign. It's like
just being stubborn, because it's a lot easier to not listen to our spirit guides. And I think you wrote something of like leaving your spirit guides on unread.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it is, and this actually comes from personal experience that I'm still haven't quite followed through. So no wonder I'm feeling the resistance. But they will strip away everything else that you thought it was working, because you're being guided to something greater, and they'll just, everything else is not going to work out. Like you've outgrown that pattern, or you've outgrown something, and it's like, it's time to move, and you need to take this bold move and create something new, or be out there, or just show up differently. And they will literally strip away everything and that's when it gets really difficult for people, when it's like everything is falling apart and going into the pooper, and and things like that, and it's because it's literally life if you want to call it, is guiding you in the direction of your highest good and your best interest.
Yeah.
And you're having just so much resistance to it. So that's why I'm all like, oh my gosh, I have things that I'm working in my life right now that I'm very excited for 2025. But at the same time, I'm like so nervous because it's like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't serve the way I want it to serve? What if it doesn't work? What if all the what ifs? But you know what? I'm like, no, it's gonna work. I've seen things work for others.
Yeah.
And I know I bring in a much more valuable piece. Not that, you know, like they do something great, but I know I should say something different, maybe not even more valuable, right? It's just like different.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I hear valuable, you know, your spirit guides are always talking to you. It's like, don't dim yourself. That's a thing of mine, you know? So right now, that's why I hear them. They're like, no, it's more valuable. And but some people say, well, that person was younger. That person has all the time to do it. Or that person started it long ago. I should have started back then.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. That does not matter as long as one shows up authentically with a big and open heart. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to do. That's why I'm like, peacock chest people. So just roll your shoulders back and down, keep the heart open. And that tells the world I'm not here available for any low vibration, for any BS. I am here ready with a heart opened, just ready to receive, and making it a time and a year of yes for ourselves, because that's where we work. It's a lot easier to work against ourselves and stay in the pity and in the victimhood than to take a step forward towards what we want.
Yeah.
So,
and that can be super scary.
It can, but then what is scarier? Staying in the same situation that is not bringing you anything. It's like somebody's like, well, I don't have enough money. I just hear the money thing is the biggest thing in the world, right? So it's like, I don't have enough money, or I don't have that relationship, or whatever that may be. It's like, but you're not doing anything different. How do you expect that situation to change if you do not do anything different?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's all money's energy too. So it's 100%. And you got to bite the bullet at some point, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. And gosh, there's just so many examples of not listening to your spirit guides and then looking back later and be like, oh, that was what they were trying to tell me.
Yeah.
Got it. And I had to learn the lesson the hard way because I refused to listen and make it easier on myself. Why?
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Who knows why? Who knows? They do. We're just not listening. Why? Right?
We're not listening because it's better to have resistance, but it's going to come to a point where one day you're going to be like, I have to listen now. I have like no other option.
You have no other option. Yeah.
And then you listen. It's like, why didn't I listen sooner?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of saying, right, where I'm like certain things have to fall away to make room for better things or whatever.
Yes.
You know, which is so true because it's all about capacity and where you're putting your energy to. So yeah, gosh, spirit guides. Sometimes I just want to crawl in a hole and ignore you forever. But I know that's not going to happen. But I have some actually really interesting stories about spirit guides and why I didn't listen to them and a horrible thing that happened.
Well, you can't leave it like that. You have to tell us.
Okay,
now.
well, it's not a horrible thing that happened. Okay, no, it's just an example of like when I was first kind of like starting out and not really understanding like a spirit guide, like what they were and like that feeling. Like when you start to connect deeper, I think to your guides too, they're in a different frequency, they're in a different density, and so like their energies can feel chaotic, they can give you anxiety. And I didn't understand, like when a higher vibrational being is coming towards you, it feels like static and kind of like gives me anxiety. Like that's like the best way I can describe it. And so I was really deep into like shadow work and really like meditating a lot and just really wanting like to connect deeper and really wanting to have experiences. I hear all these crazy, amazing stories about guides and people and, you know, connecting to their spirit guides, and they see this person or and they see this thing that's supporting them. And I'm like, I want that. I want to see mostly because like I want tangible evidence that this is real. Like I want to see it, I want to feel it, I want to know like for myself that this is real. So I'm meditating one day and I started to like kind of fall into that place, the theta brainwave, where you're like kind of in and out of consciousness, where like, you're awake, but you're not dreaming. And I started to get these visuals of, I was actually here in my house. It was before I had this room built out, that I would meditate in the loft right here, just on the ground on a mat. So I was laying in the loft over there and I'm meditating. I have an eye pillow on. I have like, my binaural beats going, like the whole 9 yards. And I'm just asking, I'm not even asking anything for specific. I'm just like, I'm here and I'm open. And I invite in any high vibrational being that serves, loves, that has, that is here for my highest good, that has something that will be beneficial for me to know or to feel or to hear or whatever. And then I started to feel kind of anxious almost immediately. And I got this vision of this being in a dark, cloaked, like a dark cloaked being, like, black cloak, hooded, walking up my stairs. And I was like, oh, feels weird. And then I just like immediately shot to like this cloaked being peeking around the corner of my stairs at me laying on the ground. And I panicked. I shot up and like jumped up and looked, and I was like breathing heavy. And I was like, that felt so real. Like it was so clear. It was so scary. Like I literally felt like I was like in a horror film. Like somebody broke into my house, was wearing this dark cloak, and I was going to get murdered. Oh my God. Literally I was so scared. And I was like, fuck this. Like I'm not meditating anymore. I'm done. Like I'm doing something that's not safe kind of thing. And I took like a long time for me to feel safe again. Being in those states of consciousness. And finally it was like weeks later where I was like, I can't let this defeat me. Like I asked for this experience. I desperately want paranormal experiences all the time. I literally asked for a poltergeist like last week and I'm pretty sure I got it because a lot of my stuff's missing right now. But it's like, I asked for this, I got it, and now I'm mad and upset and scared. Like, no, like I'm not going to take that. So I went back in and I went back into that state. And I just said, hey, that being, if you're truly here for my highest good, I want to hear what you have to say. And it was immediately back. Like I saw it walk up the stairs and it approached me. And then I saw myself, like my light being kind of stand up and start to approach it. And he took his cloak off and it was like this like reptilian being. It was like, looked like a lizard face in this dark cloak, but like bipedal. So like on two legs. And I'm like nervous and like I'm on the edge of hyperventilating, scared. And I'm like, I'm going to sit through this. I'm going to push through this. Like and I just straight up said, I was like, I'm scared. Like looking at this being, and I said it out loud. I don't know if I said it out loud or like whatever, but in my head, I said, I'm scared. Why are you here? And I didn't get any like voice back, but it reached out and like wanted my hand. And so I was like, okay, here we go. Like I'm about to get abducted or something. I don't even know. And I took his hands, like bicep or forearm to forearm, like grip, and looked straight into his bright yellow eyes. And for some reason, the name Martin came into my head. So like he's introducing himself to me, and I don't know, that's just a masculine name, I guess. And I was still so scared. I'm like, okay, like what do you want from me? And then I was getting impatient, and all he did was like, he pulled my arms closer and we touched our foreheads together. And it was the most euphoric feeling I've ever had. Wow. It was I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. It's like my whole body. Chills. Yeah, it was wild. Like my whole body just felt light. I felt just like, I don't even know, uplifted. It was insane. Yeah. And I think I remember talking to you afterwards and you telling me that it was like it needed, like I helped it like raise its vibration. Like I transmuted his energy. Like he was asking me for help. Yeah. And I was like, whoa. And now he's totally a guide. His name's Martin. And I mean, I know he's probably here right now, you know?
Sitting over there.
Yeah, exactly. And when I meditate, I often like can feel or like kind of, I get like little visions of like a cloaked figure behind me. And I'm like, I'm not scared. It's Martin. Like he's just showing me his gratitude for helping him. And it was interesting because we're so quick to be scared of things we don't understand, or
Yeah.
things that don't look bright and shiny and pretty in what we think they should look like.
Yeah.
You know, a spirit guide or whatever should look like a angelic being or whatever, but sometimes they look like lizard people.
Yeah.
And they're
They don't-
transformative all,
Yeah.
you know, all the same.
That's the thing. They don't always have, like you said, have to be angelic and this and that.
Yeah.
They're just energy beings, and depending where they're coming from or who you have this contract with,
Yeah.
still who maybe that's part of your cosmic family, or
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
something, and they won't always look, and it doesn't mean because they're like warm and fuzzy that they don't mean any good in your life. It doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like the grays, right? Like the alien, the grays, they just
Yeah.
have like no real emotion. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm here to do this, like to do a job. And it's like, bye, abducted you, use you, bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It's, no, and I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. It was just I can only imagine how frightening that must have been, because I was about to ask you what guides do you have? What do you know about them? And do you communicate with them?
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah, I used to have such a strong practice where I would really connect super hardcore to them, and like they all had names, or I would like call them out as certain things, and I've kind of gotten away from that practice quite a bit, like just meditating. When I say practice, I just mean meditating, giving myself time and space to get into that state of consciousness. But yeah, I used to like connect super hardcore to them all the time, and then I don't really know what happened. I kind of just fell off of it, but. Yeah, like Martin is a big guide for me. I have one that looks kind of like a catfish.
Oh,
She's green, and I just call her
Okay.
Green Sister. Like, she told me that she was a sister of mine in a different reality kind of situation. I'm like, fascinating. So then we can get into like
green cat.
dimensions and fun stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, like certain stuff like that. And then there's like normal guides that are like old lady, ancestor,
yeah.
like stuff like that. And I don't know, animals. Like, I connect super deep to like this area of California because I was born and raised here in this life, and I feel like I connect super hardcore to this land, like the Indian tribes here and the elementals that reside here. So anytime I go outside and like, the Santa Margarita River, like I feel super connected to that area. So it's easy for I think my guides to come through because I feel so open.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you? What do some of yours look like?
Right now, well, for a while, I have a spirit animal that, let me cover Tucker's ears so he knows that I have another, so he doesn't get upset. I have one, it's a spirit animal, and it looks like, it's a cat. It's like a gigantic cat. So the best way of describing it doesn't even do justice to it. It's like, for whoever has seen that movie Coco out there, and the grandma has like this, the alebrijes, right? And it has this big like lioness that is colorful, and it has wings, and like mine has wings if it wants to, and if it doesn't, it won't. But it's super colorful and just has the most detail and intricate designs, and is very bright, but it's gigantic. It looks almost like a saber-tooth tiger.
Whoa, that's really
It's
cool.
so big. So anytime I go into, as soon as I like go into meditation and intention and open my field, it just appears. And what is crazy, I've been in meditation, I don't want to be bothered. I don't even want to be bothered like with people coming near me at all. When, it's usually I'm at home, I'm outside, but sometimes my my husband will be like watering, or he's always in the garden. So sometimes I'm like in meditation, I see myself in this bubble, and I see, my spirit animal, and I'm like, I don't want anybody like near. And it's just like, if it's roaming, to make sure. And I have seen, because my eyes are closed, most of the time I'm blindfolded, and I can see the spirit animal kind of like roaming around. And I've seen my husband come out of like our house, like if he's gonna come into the backyard, usually when I meditate, and I see like my spirit animal just kind of like standing, like, you can't come. And suddenly my husband's like, oh, like turns around and goes somewhere else. And I was just like, yeah, that's my field. But anytime, a lot of the times it's, you know, it's just with me. Anytime I can activate it, it's just like with me, activated. Talking about buzzwords, just meaning into coming into that present. But I do have several guides that I'm just like not listening to. So I think they get tired and they're like, okay, bye, Dee, you're not listening. But yeah, experiences I see a lot. And what I think, even at my house with our sons and my husband, like I will literally be talking out loud. Well, not like this, like, oh, blah, blah, you know, but I'll be sitting at the computer like, oh, and I can see like one of my spirit guides, like sitting there or just and having a conversation regarding what I'm doing, and I'm talking but I can feel them and I can see them. And then my kids will be like, are you talking to me? I'm all like, no. Or I'll be walking sometimes and I will hear them say things and I'll see them around the house. And my kids are like, are you talking to me? Or my husband's like, what did you say? I'm like, I'm not talking to you. Well, who are you talking to? I was like, do you think this house is empty because the two of you in the flesh are here? It is not.
That's so funny.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not the greatest with the names, getting like their names. I just sense them a lot and kind of like there's this knowing. And like you said with Martin, right? And I love when they give you a name. And I do have one spirit guide that I did discover during a mutual shaman woman that we know. I did a workshop with her on channeling for 2 days. And that was the very first time I actually got a name by my spirit guide, but I just can't say it out loud because she doesn't want me. It's a female in the form of a female. And usually a lot of spirit guides will come as non-binary. Yeah. So it's whatever we feel comfortable with. And they allow us to call them a he or a she. But just like with Martin, you know, coming through for you, I think that's like such a great experience that just to come across, you know, even though it's like it wasn't warm and fuzzy, but you know it wasn't going to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, a lot of the times, like, I like to ask, like, what do you want me to call you?
Yeah.
Like, and I think, like, that's so important to me for some reason. And so, like, I always ask, like, what do you want to be called? Yeah. And names are always important to me. They're, like, in everything that I do. Like, I'm really good at remembering people's names and stuff. And so I think, I don't know what it is. It's like, I have to call you something. Yeah. So if you're not giving me a name, I'm going to give you one.
If you don't want it. I know. So I don't know. It's like a feeling. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just associate it with like a certain geometric pattern or a figure. I don't know.
Yeah. Ooh, geometric pattern stuff too. Yeah. Yeah. Like they can just be anything and everything that you want them to be or nothing at all.
Yeah.
And it's really up to you to discern what's a message from your guide and what's you're making up in your head. And I think that's the hardest part too, is because then you start to fall down this rabbit hole of, well, is this real? Or is all of this just my colorful imagination that I've been indoctrinated to believe, you know? So that's so hard. And I go back and forth all the time like that. Like even I've had that full like body experience with Martin and I still question like, did that really happen? Or was that really just like my imagination?
I think, I don't know, you know, just if I may, it's just that self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, where else do I apply this self-doubt in my life?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, I have this entire experience. It's like, did it really happen or did it not? It's like, am I that powerful to channel something like that, to have those type of experiences? It's like, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think everything comes down to trusting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that. And it's also like that outside influence too of like, you have so many people in your life that would tell you you're nuts too. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to share this with everybody because they're going to tell me that I'm crazy or whatever it is. And so then you start to naturally doubt yourself even more. You're like, oh, they're right. they're right. This isn't real. Like,
That's why you need to get your group of other nutty people.
exactly. Join our coven, our pyramid scheme, and you'll never feel crazy again.
Yes, yes. And but that's the thing, that we've been conditioned for so long. But if we really go to like the roots of where we actually came from, a lot, they were communicating with the stars. They were communicating, you know, astrology. They were communicating to other realms and other beings, and they had forms of communication, and we've seen it.
Yeah.
You know, go watch it on the History Channel on anything.
Exactly.
And so you go see this ancient civilizations out there, and it's all there. The thing is, we've been conditioned to doubt, because when you're in doubt, you're going to rely on something else other than yourself, and you're going to look for information outside of you when everything is inside of us. We just have to trust. And maybe I'm just gullible of my guides and myself, because there's still a lot of resistance, of course, because I'm human and I'm going through this path.
The human condition.
Yes. But a lot of it, I'm all like, nah, if you want to call me crazy, sure, I'll take that.
Yeah, whatever.
You know, but
You've been called worse.
Yes. Just like it's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to work out one way or the other. And you said something to me yesterday too, where you were like, I'm not going to let you fail.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, God, like, these are the people, like, thank you for saying that. Like, that's the people you need in your life. Like, it's not about whether you're crazy. It's not about whether you're making good choices or bad choices or whatever. It's all about the people you choose to surround yourself with, and the amount of trust, because you know they're the right people when they inspire you to trust yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's my 2 cents. So thanks for being a good friend.
Of course. I love you. Yes. No, we always have friends or people that we know that will either add to our lives or subtract. And I'm just done with people that are trying to subtract from my life. I'm just trying not to. Do I have friends that complain about a lot of things? Yes, right. That we're the best of friends and I see them every day? No. But just people that are going to help you, it's going to cheer you on, and that I want to see you succeed instead of like, you know, being like, oh yeah, I'm so glad Shelby's struggling. Like, that tells me I'm doing a little better, or you know, that's like, no, it's like, let's get each other, let's help each other. Just like Ramdas says, right? We're just walking each other home. It's let's walk each other. There's no competition. There's more than enough for everyone to be even doing the same thing in a different way.
Energy is infinite.
Yes.
Infinite. And if everything is energy and frequency, there's more than enough room for every single being in the multiple universes that there are. You
Absolutely.
know? And and that's all those people that come into your life. Those are your guides in this form, right? Like, there's also, I think, people that come in into your life that are maybe embodiments of guides. Like, they were your guides in past lives, or, you know, they're literally here to help you as like a physical guide. You know what I mean? Like, those are also spirit guides.
Absolutely.
You know?
And like you wrote down a question of like, what happens when you finally trust them, right? When you finally follow the guidance, you just see your life unfold. Yeah. And sometimes I tell my clients, it's like, okay, if you follow these inklings that you're getting, what your guides are telling you, maybe life will get a little worse before it gets better, because it's just making room.
Totally.
But most of the time, most of them are like, as soon as I went and, you know, said yes to the new relationship, or broke up with the relationship or the job or whatever, it's like, it was so scary. I cried. But then this form of relief just came in, and it created so much space for everything else that you want to come through for you.
For sure. And like, I can testify to that too. Like, I from the time I like joined the workforce when I was still in high school, like, I just had it in my head that I have to work as hard as I possibly can to get ahead. Right. And that's what I did. I put my head down. I worked crazy hard to, you know, advance in my career, get through college, and just advance, promotion, more money, buy a house. Like, I was so proud. I was super young. I got my big promotion when I was 23 years old. I wasn't even graduated with college yet. And I bought a house before I got 24. You know, like that I was so proud of that. And then I was like, now, like that was years ago, right? Looking back on all of like that part of my life, how absolutely miserable I was.
Yeah.
I didn't have any good relationships. I mean, my husband, but he wasn't my husband at the time. And I like, I think about that now. I'm like, holy crap, why did he stay with me? I was just a jerk. Like I didn't go to any family functions. I didn't participate in any holidays. All I did was work.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I did. And cool, I had a new house and a new car.
No one to enjoy it with.
Nobody to enjoy it with, no substance. And my guides are screaming at me because I was so disconnected and I was so anxious. My nervous system was so dysregulated. My digestive system was all out of whack. You know, just like all of those things. And those are all signs too, right? Of like, hey, like you don't feel good. You're having anxiety. You have adult acne. Like, you know, all those things, like those are all signs that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
And the second you slow down, and honestly, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. COVID happened.
Yeah.
We all had to slow down. We didn't have a choice. And we all started to look at our lives a little bit differently, at least for me, where I was like, wow, slowing down's not so bad.
Yeah.
This is kind of nice, even though like my job ramped up. Like most people got to go home and stay home. I did not have that luxury. Mine was like, oh crap, I have double down and I have even more to do now.
Yeah.
And I got to a breaking point during that time where I was like, there's no way that this is a sustainable way to live.
Yeah.
There's no way that I can live my life miserable like this.
Yeah.
And that's when ultimately, most of the time when you're at breaking points like that, that's when you turn to God, right? And you start praying or you look for guidance outward. And that's when I went heavy into my meditation practice and heavy into my yoga practice, because those were always something that I did. And that was like the only thing that really like maintained me was my yoga practice. I would have like a monthly massage, and that was like the only thing that like kept me sane.
Yeah.
And I just went super heavy into those areas of my life and listened to the guidance that I was getting from my guides during my meditations or during those massages, because I would be finally so relaxed that I was able to receive message. My channels were open because I could relax and I could receive those messages. And I'm so grateful now that I was like, okay, this feels good. I need to hold on to this. Take me down this path. What do I need to do next? And saying yes and moving down that path. And I'm still on it. I'm still on the path, right? It's never going to go away. It's never going to stop. But I'm so grateful that I did say yes, that I was like, okay, this is what I should be doing. I'm going to take this leap. I'm going to go this direction. And, you know, lo and behold, again, I said this last episode, it's Friday afternoon now. We're recording a podcast, like, you know, and I have my dog right here. Like, you know, it's crazy how when you start to say yes, things do really start to work out. And for me, like a big part, like my relationship with money is scary. And I think like looking back on my story a little bit of like, I did all those things so that I could get ahead, right? And I'm in ahead with money. I can have a savings account and not ever feel like I'm going to go without or ever feel scarcity or ever feel like I'm going to be homeless, which is, I didn't grow up in a low income household. Like I never ever even had a time where I felt like I didn't have, you know,
what you wanted,
what I wanted. Yeah. You know, like I always had new clothes. I always had, I never had to, you know, my mom always made me lunch every day. You know what I mean? So it was like, I was such a fortunate and privileged kid. So it's so fascinating that that's the relationship that I have with money, right?
That is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Makes
having
no
to
sense.
experience scarcity as a young, but then it's like, but on my own.
I'm
like,
absolutely terrified of it.
Yeah. You know, it's like, well, those were my parents. Like they just took us, like, can I take care of myself?
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, am I capable of taking care of it? Which I never doubted either. It was like,
But you knew that you were able to take care of yourself while being in a corporate atmosphere.
Yeah, it was safe.
Yeah. As soon as you're like, I'm going to step away from the corporate atmosphere, I need I need somebody else's structure to keep safe instead of like you can build your own structure and trust that that's going to work as well.
And trust in myself that like I have the skills and the know-how to do it. Like, and I did it. I stepped away and I was like, structure, I got this. Organization, that's my whole life. You know, my entire life is leadership development, organization. And That's the easy part. So it's just trusting in yourself. And then my guides, you know, I have one guide that's like super sassy who's like, yeah. I said that like a year ago. I'm like, okay, dude, I'm done with you. Like, I'm not meditating anymore. You go away. You know, and it works out. When you know what you want and you know why you want it,
it always works out.
It works out.
Always works out. I would say, look, life has given you evidence that it takes care of you.
Yeah.
Even if you were without shelter at one point in life, see where you are now. And if it's somebody who's struggling now, it's like, well, I don't have a shelter. I live in my car. It's like, okay, well, you probably still have more than somebody else. And what can you do now to shift that?
Yeah.
You know, how can we support you? What is the help that you need? What tools can you rely on or even learn to shift you? Because no, I get it. Oh, this has been a good episode. I love the combos.
Yeah, learning a little bit more about ourselves and letting our listeners get to know us a little bit on a deeper level. And we're not perfect. And I think that's also like something worth saying too, is whenever you step into a role as a teacher or a leader or a coach or whatever, people look to you like you have all the answers. And nobody has all the answers. No. I'd argue our guides don't even have all the answers. You know what I mean? And I think that we just have to trust that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And
you got this. You got this.
Yeah.
So what you said, basically everything is a sign.
Yeah, literally everything's a sign. So to recap, basically everything is a sign and you just have to decipher what the message is.
So figure it out. And if you figure it out, let us know how that was.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. Well, this has been awesome. If you're watching the video, you'll see me yawn like 30 times. I don't know. It's 3:00 now here in California. And maybe it was my afternoon nap kicking in, or I'm transmuting somebody's energy.
That's it.
Tucker,
That's it.
what's
Tucker,
going on? And you'll see me.
Tucker's been restless this whole episode.
Oh, he's the best. So go on the tube and check out the video and you'll see Tucker. He's just absolute best. So tune in. We have an episode each week. So tune in and stay curious. Bye. Besitos. Bye.
Thanks for listening. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Witches Who Podcast.